Few things. One, I upload daily NBA content on this channel, so if that is something that interests you, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Another thing, I literally just uploaded a video that was a 2K talk about the Most Improved Player Award, my picks for 2021, as well as kind of an issue that I've always felt about that particular award. So, uploading this video this soon after that one is probably going to tank that video. So if you could just do me a favor after this video is over and go watch that one, it would be much appreciated. But, wow. Russell Westbrook traded to the Washington Wizards for John Wall and a first-round pick. The Rockets managed to turn Russell Westbrook in his contract into John Wall and a first-round pick. So first of all, Washington. Let's talk about them getting Russell Westbrook, because this is the more interesting point of view. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. How is that going to work out? Well, I think it's going to be a similar-ish issue to the problem that was with Russell Westbrook and James Harden in Houston. Like, it's not as bad because Bradley Beal is going to be... The issue that happened with Russ and Harden was that neither of them are really effective off-ball players, whereas with the Washington Wizards, Bradley Beal is not a bad off-ball player, but he's also not someone who wants to be doing it all the time. When you think back to those Wizards teams just putting like Russ in the place of John Wall back when Bradley Beal was the clear second guy, Bradley Beal was a primarily off-ball player. Now that he's in Washington in the situation that he is now, with him being the lead option, he's much more of a ball handler, much more of a creator, and he's not coming off screens to nearly the degree that he used to. That being said, it should be a better fit than Russ and Harden, and I will say that if I had to put money on it, I would say that yes, the Washington Wizards make the playoffs next season. I would actually place a good amount of money on that, and it's unfortunate because I wanted my Bulls to make a playoff spot. That just made it a whole lot fucking harder because Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal is definitely a good enough duo to be a top 8 seed in the East. Davis Bertans on top of that, Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura, whatever ends up coming of Denny Avdia, whatever the fuck it is. The Wizards, they're sitting pretty right now. Now, trading a first-round pick is less than ideal, but John Wall is less valuable at this point than Russell Westbrook. I think that's pretty obvious. They both have bad contracts. I actually think, I might be wrong, I probably am. I think, is John Wall's contract longer than Russell Westbrook's? I don't know. So there's that. On top of the fact that John Wall has not played basketball basically in 2 years, whereas Russell Westbrook has been relatively healthy, and they both have bad contracts, so I guess it makes sense to include a first-round pick. I just wouldn't be exactly happy about that. But now let's talk about this from Houston's perspective, because this is where I think it gets more interesting. So I was very much on the mindset that the Rockets were going to trade both Russell Westbrook and James Harden because of all the reports coming out about James Harden and the fact that the Rockets pulled off the trade that they did, sending Robert Covington to the Blazers for 2 first-round picks. While that trade in itself is not that crazy, moving a guy like Robert Covington for first-round picks is clearly a move that a team heading towards a rebuild does. So to me, I figured that the Robert Covington trade was like writing on the wall that, like, yeah, James Harden is not going to be on this team next year. Or if he is, it's going to be like Jimmy Butler in his second year on the Timberwolves, where he was really there for a couple of games and all that drama was going on behind the scenes. I did not think James Harden would be playing for this team, and now that they've traded for John Wall is supposed to be ready for the start of next season, so he's gonna play for Houston. And with them signing Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins, initially I viewed like the Rockets going in the rebuild direction even more when they signed Christian Wood, but then adding DeMarcus Cousins, that's not really a rebuilding move unless you're planning on trading him later on, and I don't believe it was more than a 1-year contract, so I don't even know how viable that would be. So it's definitely seeming like the Rockets plan on bringing this team into the 2021 season with John Wall, James Harden, whoever at small forward, I'm not sure, Christian Wood, and DeMarcus Cousins. I guess Eric Gordon would be the small forward. That's interesting for sure. I don't know how good it's actually going to be. It's really going to be banking on how good John Wall is. I ended up making a video about this a couple of months ago, or maybe 2 months ago, I don't know, it was a 2K talk on how good is John Wall going to be back when he comes back, and my prediction was probably not that great. On a more, I'd say the most basic, like, positive prediction you can make for John Wall without being like overtly, like overly positive, would be like he's like the 12th best point guard in the league. Like he's a better Eric Bledsoe. Like he can't shoot, and then he's still playing good defense, and he's a pretty good playmaker and ball handler, but John Wall's never been a good mid-range shooter. He's only been good attacking the basket and playmaking and playing defense. Past couple of years, his defense has slipped, then he's been injured, so you can only imagine that gets worse. He's also been a player who's relied heavily on athleticism, and also his play style, where he's that much heavy of a ball handler despite not being a great shooter, is not ideal. And also averaging double-digit assists is like a flaw with a team, and that's obviously not going to be happening in Houston with James Harden. So for that actual pair, James Harden is going to be dribbling the ball quite a bit, and John Wall is useless without the ball. And if we talk about like what the Rockets are going to look like as a whole, there's also like the new coaching situation. I don't remember who their coach is, but I know apparently they're planning on stepping away from Morey ball, where it's like just James Harden isoing on every possession with a bunch of floor spacers. James Harden, there's also stuff that came out about him. There was this clip from the All-Star game where James Harden told Curry that he hated how Houston played basketball and he wanted to be in a more off-ball system like he was earlier in his career in Houston with Kevin McHale as the head coach. So I do think getting a guy like John Wall does make that interesting, and it would allow James Harden to do that more, I suppose. It's just a matter of how well is he going to adapt to that, because, I mean, we heard it from Curry's mouth directly to Steve Kerr in that clip, so it was something that James Harden said to Curry, unless Curry was lying to his head coach for some reason, which I don't think he was, and this clip was recorded, like, anonymously. They didn't know they were being recorded, so maybe James Harden is going to be okay playing off ball more. But at the same time, it probably would have been better just to have Russell Westbrook for that. If that was how it was gonna be, like Russell Westbrook's at this point better than John Wall, unless John Wall comes back fully healthy to his 2017 version, in which case I would say John Wall is a little bit better. But if that's not the case, which I'm seriously doubtful that it will be, I would have rather just had Russell Westbrook, and maybe you could have bought Russell Westbrook into that system and allowed James Harden to be more of an off-ball guy, but who knows? We don't necessarily know. We definitely don't necessarily know all the stuff going on internally in Houston, and maybe Russell Westbrook was just completely fed up and was like, I don't want to be here regardless of the changes you're going to make. So, yeah. But this is definitely an interesting trade for both sides. When I initially saw this rumor, I was like, why would that be a thing? And then the more and more I thought about it, it makes sense. It makes more sense for the Wizards than it does the Rockets, because the Wizards, they clearly wanted to go in the direction of Bradley Beal as the franchise leading man. John Wall, with his injuries, was clearly going to be the second guy. John Wall didn't seem all that happy with that, which is funny because now he's traded to the Rockets, where he's definitely the second guy. And now they're going to have Russell Westbrook instead, who, I mean, he didn't seem to have that much of an issue being the second guy. He just had an issue being the second guy to a ball handler, because he didn't have an issue being a second guy to Paul George, who was much less of a ball handler, much more of an off-ball player, a guy who shot 11 threes a game, many of them catch and shoot. So Russell Westbrook was perfectly fine in that situation. And Bradley Beal is a guy who's probably similar-ish to Paul George when paired with a star, in terms of him having that percentage on ball versus off, where he's more of an off-ball player when there is a good lead ball handler there. You could argue with the Wizards, there wasn't any elite lead ball handler outside of Bradley Beal, so that's probably why he was doing that off-ball or doing that on-ball stuff more, and maybe with Russell Westbrook he'd be more okay coming off of screens for shit, and that would be a good offensive system. In terms of if I think this team goes that far in the playoffs or anything, no. I just think there are simply better teams in the Eastern Conference, and the last year, I have been giving Russell Westbrook a benefit of the doubt after being incredibly critical of him, and then he does what I have said that he's going to do for the past couple of years, because he always does it, and he just sucked in the playoffs, and he was disappointing across the board, and at this point, I have zero belief in Russell Westbrook. But I do believe that he can lead a team to an 8th seed without a talent like Bradley Beal. Now he has Bradley Beal and decent supporting cast with Davis Bertans, Ish Smith, a backup point guard. I listed all their names earlier. This is definitely a playoff team. I could see them making a second round. I don't see them making an Eastern Conference Finals, and especially not a Finals appearance. But it's certainly going to be interesting. I'd like to thank Russell Westbrook for demanding a trade, because I like shit that's new and interesting, so I'm happy to see it happen. John Wall in Houston with Christian Wood, DeMarcus Cousins, that's also going to be very interesting, but we'll have to wait and see. Not too long, actually, to see what this team's going to look like, because training camp begins in like a week. So yeah, this should be interesting. Again, please go watch that video that I just uploaded before this one if you haven't already, because YouTube is going to tank it. This video is probably going to do fine because it's a reaction to this shit. That's how it works. But yeah, also, there is a new My NBA video, episode 7, where we go over the first round of the playoffs. So if you have been keeping up with that series, have not checked that one out yet, then please go do so. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.